Afternoon featuring the NASCAR Nationwide Series, and we're joined by Danica Patrick, who will drive the number 7 GoDaddy.com Get Your Net Chevrolet for Junior Motorsports. Her first time in a stock car here at Richmond International Raceway, but has raced 5 times here previously in IRL, 4 top 10 finishes out of that, including a career best here, 5th, the last time she raced in 2009. Again, Danica, first time in a stock car here, though, at Richmond. How did practice go for you? And let's look at expectations for tonight, especially with a pretty interesting tribute paint scheme that you've got going on, too.
Yeah. Before I blabber on about the car and everything else, yeah, we have a special paint scheme. It's still a GoDaddy car, but obviously it's not that bright, visible green that it normally is. It's obviously black with a red, white, and blue ribbon, of course, and 2,967 stars. Is that right? Do I have the number right, Harry? 2,976. I'm dyslexic. Stars representing all the people that were lost in 9/11. So, special paint scheme. I dare anyone to count the stars. There's lots of them. But obviously it represents something pretty sad. So I was just watching TV last night, actually, and I don't know if it was because I was on a New York channel or not, but they said that there was a relevant bomb threat, or a terrorist threat. So obviously this stuff is very real for us still, and it's special to remember it and remember that we've come through it, and hopefully we never have to deal with it again. But so that's the special paint scheme. There's lots of us with it this weekend. Obviously, we all are thinking about the point in time being 10 years anniversary of 9/11. But hopefully, we can get the GoDaddy car into a good position tonight. Practice was okay. I think I got up to speed all right. I mean, my 8th lap was the quickest lap of the day, and it got going, and I could kind of hear it in Tony Jr.'s voice, like, there you go, yep. And he was, telling me my times, and then they just didn't get better. So we made a lot of different changes, and some of them worked okay, and some of them not so much. So my focus for the second half of that practice was just to not necessarily try and achieve necessarily a perfect car, but just to give me just to make something consistent, something that I'm not leaning too hard on one end or the other, or one corner or the other, something that allowed me to be able to just run consistent laps after lap, because I'm told the tires fall off quite a bit here, which was good to hear because my times fell off a little. And, a short oval, things can change a lot out there with the track and with the tires, so I just trying to not be too hard on one corner, so hopefully if I'm not super fast overall, maybe I can beat a fair amount of them in the end by just being consistent.
All right. Questions for Danica? We've got the wireless mics for you. Name and affiliation before you ask. We'll start over here with Lewis.
Lewis Frank with Reuters. You spent more time now in the NASCAR Nationwide Series than before. What have you learned the most or the best about driving these cars this past year so far?
Well, I haven't driven them any more necessarily this year than last year, but I think that for me, we've been going to tracks for a second time more frequently, obviously, and that makes a big difference. But here at Richmond, I've not been here in a stock car, and Haley asked me if this is anything like an IndyCar at the very beginning in practice, and I was like, they don't even compare. So very, very different tracks, very different ways of driving them, very different lines, but it's just completely different. So second time to a track is obviously usually much better for me. I mean, we bounced around with some things on the setup this morning that, when we come back for a second time, we won't have to, because we'll kind of have the setup already basically comfortable for me. So that's what I feel like the big advantage is to the second time. I'm more comfortable with cockpit stuff, and there's less fiddling around with that. And, I feel overall more calm in the car, that I can digest what's going on a little bit better and easier. So all that stuff helps overall, but the second time back is really the big difference for me.
Let's come over here to Bob Pockris and then to Jenna.
Bob Pockris, SingDaily.com. As far as your 2012 Cup schedule, what's going to be the criteria to determine what races you got? Is it going to be, is the sponsor going to decide, or are you going to, do you want a mix of tracks or tracks you've been to before? Can you kind of give us an idea what you're thinking about?
I mean, GoDaddy's input is important. Yes, it is, and they'll play a part. But they're also very respectful enough to understand that I'm the driver, and that the team owners are drivers too, and they're not NASCAR professionals necessarily. So taking the advice of those around me who have been in the sport for a long time, they realize that that's a smart thing to do too, and they don't stand in the way of that at all. So when I first talked to Tony about it, he thought that maybe going to some of the tougher tracks and getting a head start and learning them would be the best, which means I'm really going to look like crap out there. Going to, I don't know where they'll be, but I can only imagine it might be challenging tracks like Darlington or Dover or Bristol, or some tracks that are just a little tougher. But we haven't come up with the schedule yet because the schedule's not out yet. So once the schedule comes out, we'll look at it, and usually these things kind of come together pretty quickly once you can see it on paper and see what's possible. Obviously, the Nationwide Series is the focus, so sometimes when there's a conflicting weekend of locations, I'm going to, obviously be in the Nationwide Series, and I'm not going to put my hand up for going to a tough track and flying in an airplane back and forth. First off, I don't own an airplane, so that's expensive, and it's a lot of work, and I'm going to be getting familiar with many tracks in Nationwide anyway, so I don't think that's going to be what I want to do. So I think it will become obvious once the schedule comes out.
Jenna?
Jennifer, AP, sort of an IndyCar question. What are your thoughts on going to Japan next week? Did you have any concerns with what's going on with the nuclear reactor or anything like that?
You're actually the first person that's asked me that. I don't think it's not great. I mean, I don't want to make anyone mad, but heck yeah, I'm concerned. MotoGP's made a big fuss about going there, and obviously their race got delayed, and it is still after ours next weekend. But they had a study done that seemed like it was relatively safe. I don't know if it necessarily means the radiation levels are elevated compared to the past. Maybe they are, but it's not the highest around. So the radiation seems like it's okay. I'm concerned about the food, to be honest. There's a lot. They say don't eat beef, which probably means don't eat vegetables and fruit. I read something about 9 times the radiation in mushrooms so far out of the Fukushima and that area. And there's earthquakes like every week, and it seems like every other week there's a pretty big one. I mean, there's been a couple 6.5 since we've in the last month or two. So I think that there's a general concern for the safety of being over there. I'm told that IndyCar has an emergency plan if something happens and we need to all get out, which is terrible to think about. I guess it's just we've compromised on the track because we're racing on the road course and not the oval. We're not going. IndyCar's not going back after this year anyway. It just seems like a lot of forced things to make it happen. But I'm just a driver and I show up where I have to show up. I will pack, precautions for my own food. I will, my husband and I will pack as much food as possible and water. I don't know. I feel like the league should be responsible for all that, but I'm not going to rely on them.
Lee Spencer, Fox Sports. Have you given any thought to what it's going to be like getting out of the tub the final time at Las Vegas and, what you've accomplished and what you'll be leaving behind?
Yes, I have been more than anything just excited about the future and excited about getting to NASCAR and my tough days. I'm thinking to myself, I can't wait to get there. But I was thinking this week, and I've been asked the question this week about that, and I'm sure that there will be those bittersweet feelings at Vegas, especially being a mile and a half, which are tracks that I really like to race on an IndyCar, and being the last one, I'm sure that there will be those feelings. But at the end of the day, I've chosen to race NASCAR because that's what I have the most fun doing, and that's what I really want to do. So I'm I'm not super sad, and if I was, I probably wouldn't be leaving, but I'm sure that it will be a little bittersweet that last time. And hopefully it's a good race. It will be disappointing, obviously, if something went wrong in that event that put me out of the race and, you know, I wasn't able to finish or something like that, or for some reason it wasn't a great run. Obviously that will be a little bit disappointing. You always want to end on a high note, but we just might.
Libby Hughley, WFLS. I am so curious, what is the difference in the fan reception with your IndyCar fans and NASCAR fans?
Just in general, the difference between the two, I'm very fortunate to have lots of great fans. I feel I mean, we raced in Baltimore last weekend. It was the first time we had raced there, and we raced on the streets, and I had never felt like such a rock star than last weekend, I have to say. Everywhere I went, everyone knew who I was. Everyone recognized me. Everyone was saying something, and it was pretty amazing. So that felt really great, and that was an IndyCar race, and it was the first time there, so they tend to be a little more excited. But ooh, that looked loose. But in NASCAR, I get the same thing. I mean, there'll be people waiting to sign stuff when I walk out the door, and there'll be lots of fans. And I've had so many so much positive feedback on Twitter from people, and whether they're NASCAR or IndyCar fans, I don't know, but they're excited for me to go. So, and in general, I'm very fortunate to have lots of great fans, and I'm very fortunate for that. Yeah.
Hey, Danica, back here. Melinda Adams, ESPN. Totally non-racing question.
Oh.
Had the first NFL game last night.
I couldn't stay up late enough.
I know, me either. Just wondering if you have a pick or somebody that you'd like to go.
Well, if the Packers keep playing like that, I'm not sure anybody's going to beat them. What'd they score? 42 points? I mean, I hear we got a Packers fan over here. Yeah. I'm not a Packers fan necessarily. I am a Bears fan. And if you're a Bears fan, you cannot be a Packers fan. That's illegal. Definitely in Illinois. So it's funny. I went to the ESPYs this year, and I met Donald Driver, and he was so nice. And so I sent him a good luck but not too much luck text yesterday. And he wanted me to come to the Bears-Packers game in Chicago and wear his jersey. But I don't think I can do that unless I want to die. That would not be good. But I'm a Bears fan through and through. So I grew up in the Chicago area, so I'm a Bears fan. Hopefully they have a great season. They did last year.
All right. Danica, thanks a lot. We appreciate the time. Good luck
Thanks.
tonight. Thank you, my dear.